Has it come up on yours?
What's on Facebook?
Yeah, the Book of Faces.
Yep.
There we go. Cool.
This is like, I feel like I'm breaking the fourth wall here. I'm reposting a live video of myself.
You can even watch it if you want while we go. Cool. Have we got anyone on? If anyone's on, you want to say hello, that'd be great. Let's make sure we're all plugged in, ready to rock and roll.
Hi.
Wow. I don't know what I'm doing with technology, eh? How'd you go?
Yeah, I think I've shared it.
We're good.
Yep.
We got anyone on? No one's said hello yet. We've got people on. Sweet. All right, I'll kick it off. Thursday night, 7 p.m. Rocking and rolling. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for tuning into episode 6 of Confined by Walls, Not by Heart. I'm pretty excited by tonight's episode and extremely grateful for everyone who joined us last night. These episodes are blowing up and reaching thousands of people, and I guess that's no surprise given that the people we have on are real, relatable, they're authentic and have years and years of knowledge and experience behind them. So these are the conversations that need to be had so that we continue to live the life that we deserve. It's a very difficult time that we're experiencing right now. So I also want to start tonight again, similar to last night, more so just by giving you a disclaimer. Tonight's episode is a no-holds-barred conversation. It may feature coarse language, especially with us two. It may contain experiences of suicidal crisis, and it will definitely frequent talk of minor behavioural health challenges. But most importantly, what it will contain is the overcoming of that, the hope, the healing, the management of it, and the tools that are required for you to live your best life. Using holistic strength-based practices that we both use, myself and Ben, to be our best selves. So if you're experiencing any crisis situations or challenges with minor behavioural health, please ring Lifeline on 13 11 14 or Beyond Blue on 1300 22 46 36. I also want to take the first little bit of this episode to share a couple of new initiatives that we've got going on at Mindful Oz, and they've only just come in the last couple of hours. So hot off the press. Firstly, Hollywood actor Andy McPhee. You might recognise his face or name from Sons of Anarchy, Wentworth, The Condemned, Home and Away, and many more, has created a platform on Cameo where for just $20 you can purchase a video message from him to whoever you want for their birthday, anniversary, to scare them, to blow them a kiss, whatever you want. And the proceeds of that $20 will be going to Mindful Oz to continue to support the people in our communities across Australia, regional Australia. So if you want a shout out from Andy McPhee, jump on and get that. I'll have the links and everything up tomorrow or in the comments later after the end of this episode. Also, I just want to remind everyone about the Best Me program. The logo's in the top corner. www.mattarunalls.com/bestme. For just $97, come on the journey with me and many other men around the world that are putting time and effort into what matters. And that's becoming our best version of ourselves. Unlock a library full of tools, resources, strategies, and a lifetime of healthier, happier living. So a self-paced self-discovery program in the comfort of your own home. Also, it didn't take us long that we're into episode 6, but we have aligned with good partners and organisations through this. And what we've done is come up with a sponsor for Confined by Walls, Not by Heart. So we're proudly supported and sponsored by the Resilience Agenda. So shout out to Hadley Fisher all the way over in Switzerland for his support and dedication to support people in being proactive to look after their mind and behavioural health. Resilience Agenda's vision is changing the meaning of mental health. Imagine a world where people are inspired to think of their mental fitness like their physical fitness and to know the tools and strategies that make learning about our own mental health more relevant, engaging, and inspiring. You can find that right from the office desk with a mental fitness diary. I've got one. Oh, the camera's there. I did that last night. I've got a diary here from the Resilience Agenda. These will be what we have available to us right now. So through the support of Resilience Agenda, we'll be giving away a diary and episode to anyone that engages on our posts, and that person will be notified by me following the episode either tonight or tomorrow. So we've got some diaries that we want to give out to help people become their best version of themselves, and these have tools, tips, tricks, and ways to build resilience right from, again, your office desk. So it's pretty cool. So thank you to Hadley Fisher all the way from Switzerland for his support of what we're doing. And now to introduce this special guest, this peanut that I absolutely love and appreciate. Having grown up in Maroubra area, that's right, Higgsy?
Yeah.
Sweet. With a surfboard and the beach in tow, Ben Higgs has lived with depression and bipolar from as young as his early teens. And although admitting he never knew the tools on how to deal with the thoughts and feelings that were going on inside his head, he's always found himself lucky enough to keep himself in check. 6 years ago, after losing two of his closest friends in a short period of time, he got involved with Suicide Prevention Australia and started the PPP for SPA event, raising awareness for mental health and money for Suicide Prevention Australia, which I was lucky enough to be a part of. I'm proud to say that he's grown into this event, the largest event right across Australia, and actually right across the world. Is that right, Higgsy?
Yeah, largest event in the world now.
Yeah, which has been run in over 10 different locations across this country, 5 different states. Then it grew into what people might have known or seen now as the Anytime Fitness, SPA 24-hour treadmill run in most gyms. So Higgsy got that off the ground, and like anything that's good in this country, someone will come along and try and steal it from you. I'll say it. Using over 30 years experience living with a mental illness, Ben isn't your average everyday presenter, and I can vouch for that, having done tours with him. He's raw, he's real, he has a no bullshit approach to life and what it can throw at us, and what it can present for us as well. More importantly, how we're going to show up and face it. Ben's focus is on educating and teaching the everyday practical tools that we can use so people no longer have to sit in silence and live in poor mental health. Ben engages with communities, creating events such as Rat Fest. We talked about PPP for SPA, Walk It Off. Yeah, he's got them up there on the walls. Hitting the Road, and probably the most recent one, the Rise Games, Higgsy? Yep. Having worked with organisations such as Suicide Prevention Australia, Black Dog Institute, he's done some work here for Mindful Oz. And in 2016, Ben was invited to the United States for the National Mind and Behavioural Health Conference, which consists of all the world's best mental health and suicide prevention advocates, researchers, professionals in the field. And in 2019, Higgsy was a guest speaker at the International Bipolar Foundation Conference, which was here in Australia. So Ben is now a founder and director. Well, he's been founder and director of the Rise Foundation. He's a mental health first aid master instructor, mental health response instructor. He's an international lived experience speaker that's spoke in most states and a couple of countries, and youth aware of mental health instructor, which I'll get to during this episode. Higgsy, this guy's an absolute ripper, and we're not much good together, but what I love the most is this guy automatically throws anybody's uneducated opinions of what someone with mental health looks like right out the door with his real and authentic approach. And it's the reason I love him and the reason we get along so well. So Higgsy, or better known to me as Zone 1, welcome to episode 6, Confined by Walls, Not by Heart. And I'm glad I managed to nab you tonight, mate, to come on board. So welcome.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having us. That was a bit of a mouthful to get out there.
No, mate, I'm no good. The print, I should up the font size or something.
Borrow some of these, mate.
The new look, I like it. I'm worried about this light. Fill me in.
It's the new over 40 look for me, mate. Time catches up on us all.
It does. To start us off, mate, I want to go right back to the beginning because as far as I'm aware, you experienced a lot of mind and behavioural health challenges from as early as, as you remember. Is that correct?
Yeah, mate. It's I always say it's, I think I was probably born like this because, and I say that because as far back as I remember, this was normal. So I don't know any different. So I couldn't put a year on it, mate. But, and also I didn't have, there wasn't any traumatic event or anything like that in my childhood that, may have been the ignition, the spark for this. Mate, I'm very open in saying I had a great childhood. We weren't rich, but we definitely weren't poor. I lived walking distance to the beach. Had friends, good family, good school. So when I say it's all my life, I it's as far back as I can remember.
What were some of those thoughts that you started to realize that that's exactly what it was? How old were you when you started to realize that something wasn't quite right for you, or something that needed changing more so?
Mate, I just know that I always thought different about things and perceived differently and felt different about things. And then I think, like everyone, as you grow into your teens, I think you start to become that more self-aware, and that's when things really start to stick out. And then as I got older, I could see more that I wasn't like most people, like everyone else, and felt uncomfortable around people for that. It was always hard to put a grip on it, because it was normal to me. So why didn't everybody feel that way or see things that way? And then that, as getting older, realizing that there may be something different.
What was the first point of call then for you? What was it that made you, or what was it for you that you went in and got help? And what did help look like for you, I guess? Or did it take a long time for that to eventuate?
Mate, it wasn't until after I was 30 that
Wow.
that I actually got help. Mate, help for me from the outset was drink and drugs. I had long periods there, months, years, that I didn't go to bed sober or straight once. That was just my way of dulling what was going on.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it because it actually made me feel more comfortable around people. It broke some of that down and put us more on even keel. And I was working on the wharves from age 18. So I was in an industry where I was with a lot of older blokes, and a heavy drinking culture and stuff like that. The thing for me, I suppose, I've been very lucky in that my wife stood by me for the last 20 years now, through all of that. And she was the one that actually got me in to get help. She's open in saying that she could see that something wasn't right. But, like any 20-something-year-old bloke, I'm not going to listen to her that I should go and see a doctor or anything, but I should have.
Yeah.
That's for sure. But, mate, it was probably just into my 30s. I first went to a GP. And then I was lucky enough, because of where I live, to be referred to the Black Dog Institute.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, I want to go back to drugs because it's probably a topic that we haven't got around to a lot on these episodes. But I mean, and there's a lot of misconceptions out there, and there's a lot of people. I mean, we've just finished watching the Ben Cousins documentary, and the amount of shit that was posted on Facebook in regard.
I still haven't seen it.
Yeah.
I refuse to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of learning to be had from it, but I'm also for the people on Facebook that just write it off and write him off. I mean, can you talk to a little bit more about the element of why people actually start doing drugs? People, I mean, there was a lot of people throwing a lot of shade going, oh, well, it's his fault. If you take drugs, you're a dickhead. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that? Because I myself, I'm the same as you. We self-medicate to get through those times.
Yeah, mate, like, I'm under no illusions, like, some people take drugs for fun.
Yeah.
Of
course.
But other people take drugs or drink. I consider alcohol and drugs in the same category. Because sorry, my dog's chasing a tennis ball around. It makes life easier for people. And for me anyway, made socializing easier. It made talking to myself easier because it would dull things and quieten things down. But people have got this conception that there's this big difference. Well, what's the difference, between drinking or taking drugs? I don't see any different. Is it that drugs are legal? I mean, drinking's legal. Well, it never used to be. There was a stage where alcohol was illegal. More people die each year from alcohol-related stuff than they do any other drug. And so weed's almost legal. So are people's opinion going to change simply because one's legal and one's not?
Yeah.
But I think we need to reevaluate why some people are using it. And, for some people it's a crutch. For some people it's an excuse. For some people it's enjoyment. But for some people it's actually a coping mechanism. And although it's not a positive coping mechanism, it's all they've got and it's all they know sometimes. And it's easy. It's easy to sit inside and numb yourself. So we need to change the way we start treating people. I've had this theory rolling around in here for a little bit now that I think mental health and mental illness is the new AIDS, in that we look back now on AIDS and HIV, how we treated people and the rumors that we thought about the illness and everything like that, how we treated those people, back in the 80s compared to now. It's completely different. And I think going forward, the way we treat mental illness and addiction and, drug and alcohol use, substance use, which is considered a mental illness, I think it's going to be completely different in years' time once we actually see just the effects of how we've been treating these people, what the effects are.
And I mean, evolving on from that conversation, was there a place where you were doing that frequent alcohol and drugs then? And as you said, there was long periods of time there where you never went to bed sober. Did it become an addiction for you, or was it something that you could easily tap in and out of? But it was just a choice that you were consciously making just because you wanted to numb the pain, or did it become an addiction and hard to get out of?
Mate, I've never considered it that it was an addiction. I think that if I had have gone to a doctor or professional and gone through the questions and everything like that, they may probably would have considered it that. I never thought so. I always thought that, for me it was that I enjoyed it because it made things easier for me, and also that I was still working a full-time job. I was still highly functional in every part. I wasn't getting into trouble, no real trouble. The biggest trouble was what I was doing to myself and how I was looking after myself,
Yeah. I just want to, Jason, Higgsy, I think you're familiar with Jason. Jason Randall says, did you feel guilt that followed that self-medicating? He says there, it made my life easy while under the influence, but caused more pain and kept me in the shit loop for 30 plus years. So I guess, did you feel guilt following that self-medication years down the track now?
Not guilt, like I didn't have kids back then. So, the only person that I was really hurting was myself. And as I said, for me, it was an enjoyable thing as well, Sometimes when I say enjoyable, I mean the fact that it quietened things down and it numbed things and it just made things easier. I didn't feel guilt. Looking back, I wish I had have changed things and put some better coping strategies in place, but that's life. And that's just how we learn from now, I can't change it. But back then, no, not really. Like, I got one DUI. I felt shit about that. I had one sort of dust up with my dad, which I regret massively. I'm sure I probably hurt people,
Yeah.
those closest to me. But at the time, no.
Mm. Moving through that, you mentioned that your beautiful wife got you into the help and support that you needed and pushed you through the door of the doctors and then onto Black Dog Institute. What was the
Yep.
process through the Black Dog Institute? Because I don't think many people would recognize the Black Dog Institute as being somewhere that you would go.
No, and that's why I said I'm lucky where I live because they're only 10 minutes away.
Yep.
So they have very small number of clinicians up there, psychologists and psychiatrists that can actually see people. And so I got referred to there, had to ring up and book. I think it was like a 4 or 5 month wait.
Mm.
But because I lived so close, we said, well, look, if anyone cancels,
You run up the hill.
yeah, ring us because I'll put whatever, I need to and go in there, So I was lucky like that. So I went up there and did a bit of stuff with them. The best thing, one of the best things I did for myself, it didn't make things any different for me because it's not like some switch got flicked over and now that there was a name for it or anything like that. The biggest benefit it gave me is that, my wife now knew what had a name to it. So she could go and do some research. And so she could put some plans into place for herself. I was given medication, which I still take to this day. For me, it's not that medication's a cure and so it fixes everything. For me, it's more of a safety net. It's just a tool I've got there so that I don't have to be as strict with my diet and everything like that. I've got that extra bit of scaffolding there for me. It was a bit of a process with the Black Dog, but it was a good call. And as I said, I was just lucky that we live so close to it.
I'm going to talk about medication, mate, because everyone that listens in on Mindful Oz is aware that I'm not medicated and that's my choice. Again, that's my journey. You are, and we talk about that being scaffolding for yourself.
Yeah.
What's the medication journey look like for you? And was it first try, first go, that's it for the next however long, or has it been an up and down roller coaster, or have you ended up on every single medication there is, or what's that look like for you?
Mate, I've probably had a pretty good run, I think, compared to what I've spoken, when I've spoken to other people, what they've experienced. I was going bald before I started taking it. So, that was never a problem. I have to get my bloods checked every couple of months. I take lithium. And so they've got to adjust the levels as my body adapts to it. But also be careful because too much in the system can kill you. Pardon me. It's that chocolate slice repeating on me. So it's, different times. I had one period where I with the doctor, I weaned myself off the medication. But then I found that things were just a lot easier for me and for the family if I did stay on it, and for me, I don't think of it. I don't have a drama with it. As I said, I don't think I've had too many side effects. I'd like to, if I could blame the weight gain on it, I would.
It did for me. Lithium actually was a weight gainer for me. So yeah, I'll let you off with that one. Yeah.
Mate, the only thing that I've found, and Robbie, who works with me, found the same thing, is I find my sweat stains shirts a lot. It's weird. It's weird that it just comes out. It must be some of the shit coming out a lot. But mate, other than that, mate, I applaud people who don't take medication. For me, I do. As I said, my life's a bit like yourself in that, I'm traveling a lot. I do a lot of work in mining camps, so a lot of my strategies and tools I don't have access to when I'm away.
Yeah.
For me, salt water, it's every day. If it's not been in the water, it's at least looking at it. My family, stuff like that, going to the gym. Well, I don't always have time for them. So with that medication there, as I said, it's just that extra little safety net that I use. Because the camp food isn't always the best. The gyms aren't always the best. Access and talking to people isn't always the easiest. So yeah, it's just another little added thing there.
Yeah, absolutely. We've just got Melissa chiming in here. We've got going on medication was scary. I didn't want to do it. It took a while to get the right one. Yeah, absolutely. That's a journey that I've been on, Melissa. I went on it for about a year and weaned myself off it. Yeah, absolutely. Each to their own. And that's the importance of some of these conversations. And it's how I pick the episodes and who we have on. I mean, it's important to show everyone that everyone's path's different. We're into show 6 now, and we haven't had an episode where someone's followed the exact same path as the next person. And I think that's really important. Higgsy lives with bipolar disorder. I live with bipolar disorder. Jason Rantle from episode 1 lives with bipolar disorder. All three of us have a very different wellness plan. Every one of us looks after and manages our wellness to, I would say, pretty well. But that's come up. The one thing that we all have in common is that we put time and effort into our well-being every single day. So Higgsy, on the back of that, I want to talk about the things that support your medication.
Yep. Those strategies.
And
mate, I think that's one of the small joys in life now I've found for myself, is actually finding more and more of these strategies and mechanisms. As I said, salt water for me is a must. Even just looking at it, I guess that's come from growing up, on the beach, spending as much time as possible at the beach. Food, I'm not too strict with my food. Am in one way and not in another. At home we try and eat as well as possible. My wife's gluten intolerant, and so we try and help with that. And plus, with 2 little boys, trying to give them the right stuff. But on the back of that too, mate, I'm a big believer in, Friday night, family pizza night, and,
balance.
Taking the boys out for a treat, over breakfast or something like that.
Yep.
But, each to their own. I'd probably be skinnier if I was a lot stricter. But that's one of those things that I enjoy being able to be a bit more relaxed on. At the back of that, mate, exercise for me is huge. It's something that the last few years, probably the last 8 or so years, I've put a lot of time into. Blessed, so lucky that some of my good friends own a gym and let me just go and hang out there. And Robbie, who works with us, he's a boxing coach and trainer. So I've surrounded myself with those sorts of people as well because, mate, for me, no one ever leaves doing something physical, regretting it, even if it's just going for a walk. I bought a new boxing bag to put up out the back today. We've got a little home gym set up at the moment now because of everyone, staying at home. So, and that's brought a whole new different aspect into it, but a whole good aspect too. So out the back today, our gym did an online family session or bodyweight stuff. So I got to hang out there with the kids and have a bit of a laugh. Man, and I think that's probably my biggest strategy and coping mechanism is my family. As I said, I'm away a lot. Normally when, the more I'm away, the more I'm working, the better our family's going financially. But it's also finding that good balance because, two young boys growing up, I want to be there as much as possible. I still love to coach the footy side and stuff like that. Let's
chuck up a photo of these young whippersnappers and Higgsy got them all. If anyone can see that, Higgsy got them all in the Mindful Oz green and white socks. And this is a little while ago now, but starting those conversations as young as possible, mate. I love it.
Yeah, mate. It was a good combo because our club, the Coogee Wombats, mate, were green and white anyway. So it worked well. And, the kids loved it because, see, my kids are they're unintentionally entrenched in all this stuff,
Yeah. It's a good thing.
because, I'm at home, and they hear me on the phone and everything like that. And then my wife pretty much runs the whole gig. I just get sent out to talk and she runs everything. So my kids are hearing it also. They sort of understand it a lot. But it was a good opportunity to just bring something fun for the kids and actually initiate what it was all about. Just planting those seeds now.
I love that, mate. Love that. I want to talk more about your holistic pillars and what the things that you do with your wellness. I know we got to exercise before we started talking on the kids. What are some other things that you use? I know you're big on your ocean. You're big on the salt therapies. You're big on I also know one you're really big on because it's one I'm really big on. Your cold exposure and your ice baths.
I was going to get to that.
Yes.
Yeah, mate.
Let them have it.
Mate, one of my good mates, been one of my best mates since primary school, Dean Gladstone.
Yeah, he's trained, isn't he, Wim Hof?
Yeah. So most people would know Dino from Bondi Rescue. But, mate, we went to primary school and everything. So he's done 2 stints over living with Wim and learnt the Wim Hof method and all the cold and the breathing and stuff. So it was good, mate. So when he first came back, we were sort of his guinea pigs for him to trial it all. And as he's got deeper and deeper into it, he does it for a job now. Mate, I love it. I love it. And I love the breathing side of it. Just really just concentrating on that breath and everything. And then, mate, getting in that cold water, it's just, mate, it's good for the mind. I think just that discipline of it is what gets me, just knowing you're not going to enjoy it, but putting yourself in that position anyway, because you're going to get the benefit of it at the end. I think, the growth in that is unreal.
But do you find the cold water and the ice is a lot easier now that you've you put yourself through that stress all the time?
Yeah, it gets a bit easier, but I still enjoy that I don't enjoy it.
Yeah, it's the thrill.
Yeah, see, like I'm not a proponent of cold showers, mate. I'm gonna have a hot shower no matter how hot it is outside. The only time I'll jump in a cold shower is at the beach after a swim or surf.
Yeah.
But some days, especially if I'm working that day in the morning, like the last minute or something, I'll just get it colder and colder just to really wake myself up.
Yeah.
But the cold's good, mate.
It's
good that you've been getting into it.
Oh, mate, and I see a lot of people, because people just call me crazy for doing it. But I mean, talk about some of the benefits of what cold exposure and breath work does. I mean, the human is native, is meant to, the 3 things that we can't live without are food, water, and oxygen. Yet for some reason we worry so much about our diets and our liquids, but has any of us put any time and effort into our breath work? So, I mean, there's a lot of science now behind our breath work and how important it is to us if we actually put the attention into it and learn how to do it properly.
Yeah, I think it teaches good skills too. Not only does it, slows you right down for when you're doing it, really lets you work things out. But I think it teaches you those skills for later on, so you can always go back to it. Because what I did last year, I tried to once a month try something new each month. So the breathing and the ice bars were one. Then I flipped it and tried the infrared saunas.
How'd you go?
Just as bad as the cold water. It's just the same mind game, It's just on the other end, because it gets uncomfortable, but you've just got to get comfortable being uncomfortable in there and just sit it out,
Yeah, well, Budgie famously quotes that on episode, I think he was episode 3. So being comfortable with the uncomfortable. And if you build those healthy relationships with everything in life that causes you stress, well, then all of a sudden your life is getting a little bit more simple. All the things that cause you pain, stress, trauma, you start to build those healthy relationships with those things, the cold, the saunas, the heat. They become easier. And if we build those relationships, then we put ourselves through a little bit of stress and we remove lifetimes of it.
And it flows on to other parts of your life, in every part of your life. because you realize that you can actually push yourself that little bit further. That's the breath work. That the most confronting thing for me was the breath hold, and actually trying to hold it for that long. But the more you do it, the more you realize, shit, I'm actually capable of this.
Yeah, well, I think with meditation, a lot of people don't like doing meditation because they don't see the proven outcomes. Like you go to the gym, you can see the muscles, but you can see yourself getting better. You can see the scales dropping, whatever it is. You can see the scales rising, whatever it is you're in there to do. But if you meditate, there's no real proven physical outcome to see. You've just got to know that what you're doing works and to know that you're slowing the process down. And it's with a lot of practice and a lot of practice of breath work and these sorts of things that you start to see, geez, that my world's becoming a lot easier to live in. And that's why I'm a big fan of a lot of breath work. But with the ice baths and doing the Wim Hof method, you can actually start to see improvement in how long you can hold your breath.
Yeah, and it's good for the circulation, muscles, gets everything out of the muscles and everything.
Blood flow, stress, sleeping. I mean, I talked about last night, since I've been doing the Wim Hof and meditation and focusing on my breath work, I mean, I've gone from someone who had severe sleep insomnia, one of the worst cases in Australian history, to now I'm able to fall asleep within the first 3 minutes of tucking myself in. So, I mean, the reward, you just got to know that it exists and it's out there. I mean, people want proven outcomes, and that's why we continue to go to the gym, because we can actually physically see it. So some of these other ones where we're connected to ourselves and connected to a bigger purpose in breath work, yoga, meditation are a little bit more difficult to see the improvement.
Mate, every sports team in the world after their games have been jumping into ice baths for years, mate. There's a reason they do it, because it helps the body. We put ourselves through so much stress during the day, whether it be physical or, mental stress, even we hide in our bodies as well. And it sits in us, it doesn't go anywhere. So that ice bath, by contracting the muscle, squeezes it all out.
It's important. I mean, it's one of those things that, I mean, meditation and yoga are becoming something more that now people don't look at and judge. It's something that people partake in now more and more so. But ice baths, I still reckon, is a little bit off the mark. I mean, obviously, because there's a little bit more pain involved. But, I mean, I can't speak more highly of it, and that's why I was interested to talk to you about it, because I know that you were doing it far before I was, and it does help when you got Dino up there that's a Wim Hof instructor.
Yeah, mate. And it's one of those things that, mate, there's nothing wrong with giving something a try. And then, after doing it, I felt good. So, if it feels good, it works. So, I probably don't do it as much as I should anymore, but, we've been in a drought and everything, so I haven't wanted to use too much ice up.
Oh, yeah, excuses, mate.
Yeah. But, mate, just having all those different things you can fall back to, that you can't have enough of them, and, just like, just pushing yourself and growing and trying them. I enjoy the trial and error of it all. Getting in and trying something new. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Sweet. If something works, well, beautiful, Yeah. I've always got those, the foundation ones I go back to. Music for me is huge. Just listening to music clears my head of everything. But it's, that growth I think is what a lot of people lack, and what a lot of people actually need to find in their life. That growth, it just keeps us moving. When we get stuck in one spot, have a look, people are stuck indoors for 2 weeks now, and they're going crazy, but the same thing's happening in our head, that if we don't keep growing and moving, we start losing it,
Yeah, but it'd be a waste. I mean, I understand that there's triggers and trauma and things going on, and the uncertainty of different things can bring on a lot of angst and worry and stress at the moment, but it's also a very great opportunity that we have. I mean, I watched a really good video today about, when this is all said and done, we'll be able to look at this time and look back at this time as not as horrible as we're making it out to be. I mean, got the opportunity now where dads are playing with their kids every day, mothers are playing with their kids every day and engaging with them. They're teaching them one-on-one school for this next term. Like, these kids are going to be learning skill sets from their parents rather than from strangers. Entrepreneurs.
God help mine.
Oh, it's already too late, isn't it?
But, mate, I agree. Like, mate, I had, not last week, the week before, I had a meltdown. And which is fine. We're all entitled to have that meltdown, and if you need to have a couple of them, have a couple of them. But we can also use it, as you said, as an opportunity for trying different stuff, like my boys go to a Catholic school. They've been sending the program home. We've canned the religion part of it, of their daily schooling, but we're using that time. So one day it'll be a cooking lesson. The next day we're doing, stuff around the house, or we're outside training in the backyard.
What an opportunity that is.
That's it, mate. And it's so good. As much as people got to be away apart from each other and everything like that. Go to any park and seeing dads and mums out actually playing with kids. I think it's what we needed. It's everyone's just so fast paced that as much as you want to be out doing that stuff, we feel like we don't have time, or we've been handed that time now. Understanding, what I say from that, I'm out of a job. Every bit of work I had booked for the next couple of months has been cancelled.
Same.
So what? I've got a Sydney mortgage with 2 kids as well. So I understand that side, that people are out of work and it's stressful and everything, but I can't control it. I can't control that, but I can control as much as possible how I react towards it and what I put in place for myself. But also allowing that, you can, those days you can have a meltdown. Like I got stir crazy yesterday. I actually got sent out of the house because I was just pacing, because I just didn't know what to do with myself,
So in those moments, for that to be a learning, just for the people that are listening, what can you do to pull yourself out of situations like that? I mean, I know that it's okay for them to exist, but I believe it's only okay if we grow and learn from it and we don't repeat that,
Yeah, mate, for me, it was completely removing myself from the situation. Mate, so I took myself for a walk. Went for like a 10-minute walk. Like I think I went round the block, but it was just because I knew there was heaps I could have done. There's plenty to do around the house, but I was just pacing because I was just stuck in that moment. So it was actually catching it and realizing. And I actually turned around to Alicia and said, "Have you noticed?" She's like, "Yeah, I just haven't wanted to say anything because I didn't want to fucking make it worse." And I was like, "Sweet, just say it, just let me know, because I won't get so deep into it." But I noticed it, caught it, and went, okay, just removed myself, went for a walk, came back, was like, all right, that was as long as I needed to go for. I think that comes with being self-aware. Yeah. Just being aware of yourself, and if you're slipping or sliding, and also being honest. If you're at home with someone and you see them acting that way, being honest with them and pointing it out, because the longer it gets left, the harder it is to pull it back.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that are, I mean, again, I understand why people are in this situation, but a lot of people with bad routines at the moment, staying in their pajamas, watching Netflix 24/7, not getting up till after lunch. Carla's just mentioned it there. Routines and sleep are very important for mental health. How important have they been for you, Higgsy, to stay in routine? You talked about when you travel all around the world speaking, it throws you out, and I'm the same. Do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, mate. I don't have a set routine, but what I do have is certain things each day that I know I've got to do. And whether, because everything's so out of whack and off kilter for me a lot of the time, I can't have that at 6 o'clock. I get up and I do this at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So for me, it's just having those things each day. I've got to do some bit of exercise. I've got to, have the chat with the family and everything like that, just to keep those things. I've got to do at least one thing for work. Even if it's just one thing. but just ticking them off. And then at the end of the day, I know, okay, I've achieved something. I've moved one step forward. But part of that routine, I think, needs to be a day where you put your hand up and go, not today. I'm just sitting this day out. Have that day in your pajamas on the lounge watching Netflix, but don't make it 2 or don't make it 3 days. You know, allow it, because this is, everyone's under so much stress, and it's different stress that we've ever been exposed to, I suppose. That uncertainty of what's going to happen and how long this is going to go for, and what's normal going to be like after this.
Yeah.
And these, with the sleep, these times are throwing everyone's sleep out. I'm a victim of it. We're trying to enjoy a sleep in at our place. And you have a nap during the day, you stay up later at night, it's throwing it all out. Sleep's so powerful on our mental health. Johan Hari talks about it a lot, who I'm a massive proponent of. I'm a full fanboy.
He's good.
I think he talks about, it was Professor Irving Kirsch from Harvard University did a study on the effect that sleep has on our mental health.
Huge.
So depressions are measured in people by the Hamilton scale, 0 to 59. 0 is perfect mental health, 59 suicidal. A chemical antidepressant has the potential to move you 1.8 points on that scale. But a good sleeping pattern has the potential to move you 6 points. So a good sleeping pattern can be 3 times as powerful as a chemical antidepressant.
Absolutely. I mean, I've always said I've had anhedonia, bipolar, depression, anxiety, and suicidal crisis, and yet the most difficult thing and challenge that I've ever been through was sleep insomnia, by far. When I went through the sleep insomnia, it affected absolutely everything. Absolutely everything. It was the most difficult time of my life was when I had sleep insomnia. So I can vouch for that, because the whole shooting match comes crumbling down when you're not sleeping. And I think that's really important, like you said before, to catch yourselves in the moments. Okay, you might be looking for that sleep in at the moment, or you might be looking for, you might be having that afternoon nap that you can finally get in, because you are a little bit zapped, and the body will be zapped right now because we don't have the human interaction that we normally have.
Yeah.
So, but it's important to catch those things and understand why you're having them, and to work through them. Like Higgsy said before, and to acknowledge that, hang on, I don't want to be doing this for 2, 3, 4 days. So what do I need to make sure that it doesn't happen tomorrow? And that comes through self-reflection. And like you said, Higgsy, just another frame up of it is catching those thoughts and addressing them.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you about your diagnosis in bipolar disorder. It's my favorite topic in the world, and it's nice to have someone on that, I guess I want to hear your version of bipolar disorder. What it feels like to you. Let's tell me all you know. Let's hear it.
Yeah, the way I explain it to people is most people's ranges of emotions sit there. I sit there. Most people's thought processing sits there. I sit there. And for me, it's put me in some of the worst places I've ever been.
Yeah.
It's also given me some of the greatest things that have happened to me as well, but it's just about managing, bringing that as closer back into that as possible. And that's where all those tools and everything come in. As I said, when I was diagnosed, it didn't change anything for me, because it was just a name put on it. Wasn't that, it wasn't like I got a random blood test and found out I had cancer. So it didn't change anything for me like that. It's actually, I find it's been made things a lot harder in certain parts of my life. But it's made things a lot easier. I always try to put positive and negative together, because I hate the fact that it's just perceived to be this negative thing. It doesn't have to be.
No.
You know, like we talked about going to America a couple of years ago. Wouldn't have gone if it wasn't for the fact that we had a mental illness. So I never would have got to experience that.
Mm.
And that's how I look at it, because if I didn't look at it that way, well, it's a death sentence. It's a jail cell, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get stuck in it and let it define my life or anything like that.
It's the difference between like fighting or survival, and it's the difference between living with and suffering. Do you want to talk more about the language around living with and suffering? I know you're big on it.
Yeah, mate, it's probably my little soapbox.
Yeah.
I'll never say the word suffers from.
Good.
Me
neither.
Because as soon as someone says the word suffer, we're painting a picture of that person's life, and we don't know. We don't know everything that person's going through. And if I say suffer about myself, well, what am I saying about me? So I never say suffer. I say I have or I live with, because, you know, I look at it the same as asthma and diabetes. You know, my illness is no different to those two illnesses, you know, but they just have to put things into their life to make sure they're okay and as healthy as possible. And I have to do the same. But you very rarely hear someone say they suffer from a lot of other illnesses. But as soon as we talk about in here, we talk about mental illnesses, that word suffer comes straight out.
Yeah, it's a mindset shift. And I mean, I think that's why I love that you talk so much about this and do a lot of work with this within your courses, because it's so important. Because when I changed my mindset from suffering and struggling over to living with, all of a sudden I started to realize and recognize all the things in my life that were going really well. It's a practice of gratitude. Bipolar isn't going anywhere, and neither are us two. So I'm going to learn to love and get along with it rather than kick back off it and continue to tell myself how negative and bad it is, as Higgsy said. And it was nice to hear you agree that, you know, you can't be so upset and pissed off with the things in life that cause you hell if you don't also acknowledge the things that have led you to this moment that you're in right now. And we've been able to do some pretty cool things.
Yeah. And I don't think we probably don't realize we're using this language when we're saying it, but by saying it and saying it, it's putting that image into our heads. And if we stop saying it, we stop using that language, you know, you think about the way we talk in society now around race and sex, how much we've changed that and what impact it's had, especially in the workplace, right? So if we start changing it with what goes on in here, we can start changing how people feel about it. We can start changing whether people get help or not. We can start changing how people see themselves and how they treat each other. This language shift, it's so powerful. We don't give it the credit it deserves.
Yeah.
You know, for me especially, okay, I have shit days. All right. Yeah. I have shit days. But everyone does. Mine sometimes maybe a bit worse, but I also have good days. And you know what? I have better days than most people too. You know, because I experienced it that higher up, you know. So I probably have better days than a lot of people. So
yeah, it's important. It does. I mean, I was about to say, when our kids, I mean, these people that don't experience mental health, their perception of mental illness is horrible, because all they believe in is that it's suffering. So every single person out there is like, suffer, suffer, suffer. You have a diagnosis. Geez, it must be hell. It must be tough. Automatically, before we've even got the thing, we're believing in something that it doesn't have to be. I mean, I might be on my own in saying this, but I believe bipolar disorder for me has been a gift. It's created a lot of magic that I wouldn't have been able to create if I'm a 10 times better person than the person that was prior to diagnosis. So, like, I think it's so important what Higgsy's saying is to continue to talk about these things with safe languaging and talk about things and say that you live with, rather than people are suffering or he suffers from this or suffers from that, struggles with that. Yes, there is struggle yet in it. Yes, there is suffering in it. But as Higgsy said, it's not a life sentence, and it's created a lot of magic for a lot of people. I mean, it's 17%, or it's between 10 or 20% of Pulitzer Prize winners, bipolar disorder. It's like something like 2 to 7.5% of people with the Nobel Peace Prize, bipolar disorder.
Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, Ernest Hemingway, Winston Churchill, Heath Ledger, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Mel Gibson. We keep reeling them off. There's a lot of creative geniuses and beautiful souls out there living with bipolar. And There's 800,000 people roughly in the world living with bipolar disorder that believe it's an absolute burden to have it. And that's why I think it's important. There's probably just as many that live in the world and believe it's an absolute blessing. So if we can talk more about all the magic that we create with these things rather than how shit our lives are, because our lives are not shit and they do not have to be, no matter what your diagnosis is, if you put the time and effort into yourself the same way you do, Ben.
Yeah, and what people don't realize as well is that I talk about this big gap, but it's not all the time. Most of the time, it's like this, like everyone else.
But that's come from doing tireless work.
Yeah, but people aren't always down. Someone that has depression isn't always depressed. Okay, they can be just as swimming along as normal, just like everyone else. But just like someone with asthma isn't always having breathing problems or having an asthma attack.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
They just have to make sure they change a few things in their life to make sure that doesn't happen. The same as what people with depression or bipolar have to do.
That's right. It's a preventative measures that you have to put in so you don't have an asthma attack. And that's exactly the same way that people with depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, whatever it is, should live, is in a preventative space, doing what we can do every single day to ensure that we don't fall into those dark holes. So, I mean,
or too high a hole.
Too high a holes. And we've both been there and done some stupid shit. But
yeah, it's just the same as someone with diabetes having to continually manage their diet, say, right? Yeah. Part of what I have is, and what I need to do to mitigate that is to keep working on things, is to keep trying things, is to keep building those things so that I can keep myself as safe and healthy, as happy as possible.
Yeah, I'm glad Bex mentioned this, because we're going to go down this path with this right now while we're on the way of safe messaging and spreading the right messages. So important for everyone that's listening and will watch this at a later date to say the right things like we're talking about now. So, Ben, I know you're another big one for this. It's the same when people talk about suicide and they say people commit suicide. Can you want to talk about that one, Ben? Because this one is more important than the last one we were just talking about.
Yeah. It's a word people use that they don't sort of realize they're using it because of the way we've always spoke. All right. So I don't think people are intending for it to mean anything other than what it's always meant. Pretty much every movie, every TV show, every radio, all of that still use that same language. But it's come from, I think it's Mindframe up near Newcastle.
Yeah. The mind.
Yeah, that the term commit harks back to when suicide was a crime. Because you commit a crime, commit murder, commit rape, commit theft, all of that. Suicide was punishable by death at one stage. If you want to talk about progress and where we've come from where we were, at one stage, if someone tried to take their life and they survived, the punishment was death. And that's where the term came from, and it's just a word we've always used. But like Beck said, if someone has taken their life, it's you're putting them in the same category as someone that's committed a crime, and they haven't. Suicide's not a crime, not in our country anyway.
And it's also very important not to remember people in that light. Do you want to just explain it in basic terms for everyone out there? What are some other terms that you might use instead of committed, Higgsy?
Yep. Someone took their life. Someone died by suicide. There's two ways we can explain it right there that take that little bit of sting out of it. We're still saying the same thing. People still know what we're talking about, but we're just changing the language. Yeah. And that's all we're doing. And over years, we've had to change language. The more we've learned about everything, that our language has changed, and we just need to catch up here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I want to move on from that down to the avenue of the work you do, Higgsy, with the Rise Foundation, and I encourage everyone to reach out and check in with that and follow their journey, because they do a mountain of great work. But you started out, apart from the speaking, along the lines of wanting to put the education back in other people's hands, and you did that via mental health first aid training. I'm not sure if everyone on here has ever done that, participated in that. If you have, let us know. But you want to talk a little bit more about why MHFA is important to you, Higgsy?
Yeah, mate. Mate, it came about that I was getting phone calls off a mate a few years ago who needed help, needed to chat, and I never took the call. I dodged the calls because I was scared in what he was going to say, and I had no idea what to say back to him. Mate, I about 2.5 weeks went by of dodging these calls, and I got another call to say that he was dead. He killed himself. And so I decided after a while that, I wanted to make sure that if that ever happened again, that I would be equipped and know what to do. So I went and did the first aid, the mental health first aid, and I loved it. It was a great course. I did it with our mutual friend, Casey Lyons. And, mate, as good as what it was, the people that were teaching it were just disconnected. They were there working a job, no feeling, no story, none of that. And after a while, I thought, you know what? If someone's going to do it and do it better, why not me? So, yeah, I went out and, flew myself to Perth, took a week off work and away from the family, went and got accredited in it. Made one of the best decisions I've ever made. I love the course. It's the equivalent of St. John's first aid for physical stuff, which we place such a high importance on. And, a lot of people, most people don't really even know about mental health first aid because it's not publicised. There's no advertising for it or anything like that, which is unfortunate because I guarantee you'll use these tools and these tips every day and way more than you would ever a physical health one, which is important, but it's not as common as what you're going to use in this. And it goes from all the science behind the stuff, so you know what you're talking about, all the way through to conversations and actually how to help people. And that's why I love it, because people, it's not just an info session. People leave with actual tools they can use to look after themselves and other people.
I just couldn't speak more highly of it. I mean, Mindful Oz has been running it. We used to have Higgsy as our facilitator of it down here in Victoria when we first started out, and we've now trained over 400 people in mental health first aid in regional parts of Victoria. And as Jason Rantle, who was on here before, as he likes to describe it, they're foot soldiers out in the community that can essentially go out there and be more equipped and confident to be able to have these difficult conversations. And I think that's so important, because a lot of us are so scared and run away from those difficult conversations because we think we're not equipped with the skill set to answer them. So, yeah, I just think it's a big plus. And if anyone hasn't done it, I mean, get in touch with Higgsy. I mean, between him and Jason, they just two of the best facilitators of that I've ever seen. So,
not for a couple months though.
Not yet. Well, let's wait until it comes online and see if that happens. But otherwise, make sure as soon as we go back into normality that you get in touch. And if you haven't done that course, please do that course. I know that Mindful Oz offers it to people in Gippsland for $25 a head, whereas other places, I know Higgsy I don't know how much you charge, but yeah, I mean,
I don't charge enough. I don't charge as much as what most people do.
Yeah.
I charge enough to make, to keep a roof over my head and food on our table, but also make it affordable enough so that it should be out there for everyone to do, mate. There should be no need for it, to be honest, because it should be taught in schools anyway.
Well, it's bizarre because, I mean, every workplace has to be equipped with a mental health first aid officer, yet a lot of our first aid incidences and hazards in workplaces wouldn't exist if people were well, mind and behavioural health well, not physically well. So, I mean, yeah, we could definitely help a lot of workplaces if this was compulsory throughout Australia, and hopefully that's the way the world's moving, but I'm not sure.
Mate, a happy and healthy workforce is a productive workforce.
Yeah, what is it? For every dollar spent in mental health in our workplace, it's a $7 return.
Yep.
So
poor mental health and mental illness is now the leading cause of absenteeism in Australian businesses.
Yeah, and the productivity lost of a lot of workplaces because we're in the office for 8 hours, but we're really only working for about 3 of them. So if everyone that's listening and you run a business, if you want your staff to produce better results, get in contact with either one of us too.
That's it.
There's a few people on here that have done the mental health first aid I'm seeing, which is fantastic.
Probably a couple sitting in that photo.
Yes, absolutely. That was if you can't see, that's the Good Looking Man Higgsy. They're running the mental health first aid courses for Mindful Oz back in 2017, 2018, I'm going to go with. We've got a few people in here. We've got Tracy, we've got Bobby's done it, Jason's done it, Beck's done it. I'm loving that. I think everyone, if you don't know how to do it, get in contact with one of us too. If you want some information to put under the nose of your bosses, that's a good idea too. So get in contact with one of us too as well. Higgsy. Mental health response. That's your next. I want to learn about that one. I don't know too much about it, but it's an ever growing thing that you're doing with the mental health movement. You want to talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, mate. So what one of the probably the drawback of the mental health first aid is that it's 12 hours. It's a 2-day course, and a lot of people can't spare two days, or companies won't give 2 days. Which is understandable. They should, but if some people can't take 2 days out of the week anyway. So mental health response was created by a woman that is a friend of ours, Debbie Swibble, who we've been working with through it and helping to develop this course. Debbie's just one of those people that just get it, and is just so knowledgeable on everything. She's a criminologist, suicidologist, counsellor. She's one of the head trainers at Lifeline. She trains the people on the phones and stuff. Just one of those people.
I'd love to pick her brain on here for sure.
Great woman. And so she developed this course. It's the same content as mental health first aid, but it's condensed into 6 hours. But it's not as rigid as the first aid. The first aid course, you flow through things in a very deliberate order. The response, it's been created that it allows the interaction in the group. And although we cover the data and the info on the content, it allows the group to sort of decide what parts we speak about longer on or a bit shorter on.
I like that.
I love it because they're there for a reason. They're there to learn. So why shouldn't we focus and really pull apart the stuff that they're interested in? Mate, really loving it. Really loving that course. Again, it's 6 hours. So, we get through things pretty well. But yeah, mate, it's we didn't want to just have a one off the shelf product in the first aid, and we wanted to make sure that, everyone has access to this stuff as much as possible, and we put it in as many formats as what we can so that people can ingest it.
Oh, I love that, mate. Love that. I just want to talk about that tattoo on your head, actually. Do you want to show everyone what's going on there? What's that say? And do you want to talk us through that?
It says war inside my head. Pretty self-explanatory, really. That's the easiest way I've found for me to explain what goes on in here. That I'm in a constant war inside my head. And it's like any war, it's give and take. Mate, it's a song by my favorite band. And it's one of those songs that, it's just always been there and always explained things a lot. And I wouldn't suggest to anyone to go and do it. Don't get the top of your head tattooed. Please don't. It's, if you're in like the kitchen and you lift your head up and you don't realize there's a cupboard open, you bang the top of your head, how much that hurts. Think about that for like 3 hours.
No thanks, mate.
Yeah, nah, it's not good. But yeah, mate, it's definitely a bold statement, I suppose. Especially mate, when I got it done, I had a bit of hair, so I could actually grow my hair out to cover it up. But what do you do, mate?
I love it, mate.
Nature
because it is. It's exactly that. It's a battle all the time, and it's something that's recurring and something you've got to continually work to manage. I don't believe that it's recovery as such. It's something that you got to manage every single day, and you're doing
100%.
exactly that. I'm just going to
100%.
run through some questions, Higgsy, and you can answer these however you like. It's my
Yep,
turn to
go.
answer the questions. Best teacher you've ever had on your mental health journey?
Darren Higgins.
Why?
Mate, Darren was a bloke I worked with on the wharves. Ex-NRL player, mate. I think Daz would be 50. Massive, like big hulk of a bloke, tough bloke. Bloke I always looked up to and respected at work. And Darren started talking about his journey, and he cried. And what Darren, I've done a lot of work with him since, and he's never lost that. And what he showed me is that it's okay to be vulnerable, and we can still let everything out and lay ourselves bare, but still be someone who can be looked at as tough and a man, and all that. And for me, that's been the biggest lesson, that I can still be, this idea of what we perceive to be a man, but lay my feelings out. And if I do have a meltdown, I can have a meltdown. If I've got a cry, I can have a cry. If I have a bad time, I can have a bad time. If if something good happens, I can celebrate it, that it's not showboating to celebrate it, and that was a real good revelation for me.
Oh, I love that. Love that. And hopefully, he does a lot of public speaking with Rise Foundation too, doesn't he?
Mate, he's unreal. Yeah. Mate, Daz is doing his own stuff, and then does stuff for me as well. He did the keynote at our gala last year, simply because I thought to myself, this is our first one. Who's the one person I want to hear speak? And even though I've heard him, a dozen times, I still wanted Daz to get up. He'll be embarrassed as hell about me saying this, by the way. And I'll probably, if he sees it, I'll get a phone call where he'll have a go at me at the start, and then probably end up in tears at the end of it.
Oh, you'll be rapt that you say that, mate.
Yeah.
What question 2? What brings you the most joy?
My kids. Easily my kids, mate. Like they annoy the hell out of me. But nah, mate. They're gems, like to think that I'm sort of in charge of how they end up, scares the hell out of me. When I see bits of myself in them, it scares the hell out of me. But mate, they're gems. I see a lot of my missus in them too. And they're good kids, they're little boys. They're at a good age. They're 8 and 6 now, and it's unreal that we can have wrestles on the bed, and take them down the park and tackle practice and stuff like that, mate. Take them surfing, take them on their bikes, yeah. And I think because I'm not around all the time, traveling a lot, I don't get to see them heaps. So that when I do, mate, yeah, they're the best.
Shout out to Strum and Sid.
Yeah, Strum and Sid. Strummer looks like Slim Shady at the moment. He's got the bleached blonde hair, and Sid's half purple, half green as the Joker.
I love it.
It's not a normal household.
Oh, no. Wait, what's normal, Higgsy? What's normal?
Yeah, true.
What does your place of wellness look like, mate?
My place of wellness? If I could build myself a compound?
Yeah, either that or mentally, yeah. Both. Let's answer both.
Okay, if I could build myself a compound beyond the beach, but we'd also have a pool. I'd have a gym with plenty of boxing gear, plenty of music, and my family, plenty of good food. And that to me is in my head. It's having those thoughts. Like today, being outside, exercising with the kids, and then coming in, playing Monopoly, doing all this sort of stuff, mate. Living a normal life for me is what that is. We've talked about it before, and we've been open with everyone, mate. I shouldn't be here. No, I shouldn't be here. So every day I'm here is a bonus. So every day for me, I worked a job for 20 years that I hated, and I'd come home and I'd have the shits and take it out on them. I'm somewhat out of a job now, but we both struggle to call what we do a job because we love it.
Love it.
You know, so for me, mate, I'm sort of living that. You know, we've been through some ups and downs in our times, but me and my wife, you know, I think we're in a good place. She might tell you different, but you know, mate, I'm pretty simple in that, mate. You know, we haven't got a big house, but mate, we got a big enough joint with a little yard, mate. We got each other. We got food in the fridge, mate. That's you know, I wish my dad was still around, but can't change that. I had a good time with him, but mate, other than that, mate, I've got a good group of friends. That for me, I'm living it, mate. I can't really complain in that sense.
I love that, mate, because plenty of people in the country right now are whinging and complaining. So it's nice to hear someone shows up full of gratitude for the things that do exist. And no doubt some better things will come about before your time is up, mate. I just heard you mention that you love what you do. I don't normally ask this question, but I'm so intrigued. Why is it that you love what you do, mate?
Mate, I consider we're helping people. We're helping people become better versions of themselves. You know, and I know for a fact that we change lives, and we help people. And I just got a hi, Dad. Great after I was just talking about him. Dinner will either be cooked for me or be out on the front of the house. You know, but you know, we go to all these places and you know, and do all these talks and have these chats, mate. You know it. You know, you always have a couple of people hang around and just say thanks. You know, I really appreciate it. And what more can you want as a person to be able to go out there and share your story and hopefully, you know, it takes one person. It only takes one person, and then you know the job's done for me, and that's why I love it, because we get that back. You know, I know I'm not everyone's cup of tea, and I don't, you know, I don't connect with everyone. But as I said, one person in the room, and the job's done, and you can't. For me, I couldn't think of a better feeling than knowing you've really helped someone.
Yeah, I love that, mate. And I mean, you mentioned that you're not everyone's cup of tea, but you are a lot of people's cup of tea, mate, because it's very, very hard to come by a cup of tea that's real and authentic, that's relatable, that just shows up and does things their way. You've never played by the rules, and I don't think we should. I mean, do things our way and go against the grain, shake the trees, go against the status quo and continue to change things up, because that's the only way we're going to see a difference made in this country. And you're a perfect example of what that looks like, mate. So I know I appreciate it. Next question.
Thanks, mate.
Who is your favorite for inspiration and motivation? Who do you turn to?
There's a couple. And I'm going to sound like a real blokey bloke here. Joe Rogan.
Yeah, perfect.
Jocko Willink.
Perfect.
Jordan Peterson.
Yep.
Johan Hari.
I'm going to write these down for people to make sure that they've got. So if you just want to go from the top again, we've got Jordan Peterson.
Jocko
Willink. Hari, Jocko Willink. I listen to all these and I can vouch for all these. These are fantastic. Who else you got, mate?
Aubrey Marcus. Yeah. Mate, they're the probably sort of celebrity people, you know. But mate, I love all the stuff that's coming. You know, social media's flipped, I think, now, and people are actually using it for good. Strangely enough.
About time.
Yeah. But seeing, you know, we're lucky in the fact that, you know, we collaborate with a lot of people. And, you know, and I wouldn't collaborate with people or that if I didn't think that what they were doing was worthwhile and what they were doing, you know, I agreed with. So seeing stuff like yourself put out, you know, I work with mental health movement, like seeing the stuff they're doing, you know, I've seen so many friends that have flipped their businesses, like, you know, like with gyms and stuff, have gone from being purely in a gym to being out, you know, doing it digitally. That's the sort of stuff that inspires me. Seeing people having adapting and growing and actually putting the work in, you know. But no, for like the social media stuff and that on Instagram and everything, they're probably my go-tos. And you know, I'll listen to the podcasts and everything like that.
Podcast or book, man?
Both.
Okay, what's your favorite book?
couldn't put a name to it, mate. I go because I drift from everything from like your spy sort of novels to your Jordan Peterson and Johan Hari stuff.
Well, if we're going to talk wellness, what would you advocate for people to pick up and read as a book to go down the path of the mind and behavioral health? Lost Connections by Johan Hari. What a ripper of a book that is.
Yeah.
Here's a little if anyone's not on Audible and doesn't like to read and wants to have a book right now in isolation, Audible, you sign up and you get your first book, and you can get that book with your credit as you sign up. So a 30-day trial and you get a free book, and the free book you'll have forever. So you'll read it within the 30 days anyway. So
I think I've read it like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah,
it's brilliant.
That's whenever anyone asks me about a book on all this sort of stuff, that's the one book that I push to them.
Yeah.
That and 12 Rules for Life, Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, what a ripper he is.
Yeah. Anyone that's got young kids, I've been reading Raising Lions. I've actually got listening to it, not reading it, but Raising Lions. It's a different way of bringing kids up. I've found very interesting, especially kids that may have some behavioural issues.
Love that. What was the name of that one, Higgsy?
Raising Lions.
Raising Lions. I'm just going to feed that into the comments.
Yeah.
Below.
So the same as what you said before, if you go to Audible, you can download that for free.
Awesome. Yeah.
You get
fantastic. That Lost Connections book's an absolute ripper, and look at Johan Hari's TED Talk. That's a beauty. If you haven't seen that, jump on and watch Johan Hari's TED Talk. And while you're at it, watch a few more, because there's some absolute beauties on TEDx. This is where a lot of us advocates get a lot of our information and education from, is people like this that have been there, done it, researchers. They're the top of the game. Learn from people like that. As I've said on other episodes, take what you can out of their journeys, discredit the things that you don't like hearing, and this is how you move forward and grow in skill sets. Your people's like your Wim Hofs and that we talk about with the ice baths. You stumble across these people, they're all connected, because they all live to be a better version of themselves, and they continue to do that. We've got Carla, that said, BorrowBox offers free ebooks and e-audio with your public library membership. All Audible content on there for free. Download the app and log in with your library membership details. That's fantastic. Thanks, Carla. I appreciate that. Higgsy, you even signed up to the library, mate?
I will be.
That's the spirit. Our libraries are phenomenal resources into the community.
Now that I'm not earning any money, I need as much free stuff as I can get.
Love that. All right. Well, if favorite podcast, now that we've done book, what's your favorite podcast?
Mate, comedy wise, because that's what I normally use podcasts for, is to just break everything away. The Fighter and the Kid.
Yep.
Because I don't watch any real serious movies or anything like that. Like I said, I didn't watch the Ben Cousins doco because so entrenched in so much serious shit.
Yeah, good.
Day to day. If I'm, listening to a podcast or watching a movie, I want to be taken on a journey that's, completely, I'm a massive Star Wars.
That you are. I can vouch for that.
Did
we ever get that lightsaber home from Atlanta?
No. But I want to be completely taken away from all of that. I want to be entertained.
No, I like that.
Yeah, I will plug the Two Wolves podcast.
Yeah, good idea. Great idea. I'll write it in the comments.
Two Wolves podcast is run by Robbie Hardy, who works with Rise Foundation. I make a few guest appearances on it. But what we've set out to do is just interview anyone and everyone who has a story, and who has an interesting story, and how their stories have taken them to where they are. But the focus is not on where they are; it's on why they took it there. We did one. Still a bit shaken by it. We did a couple of weeks back. Young girl, we didn't know the full story, but her sister had killed her son and then killed herself in a murder-suicide. And it was in the local area, and she reached out and wanted to chat. So we said, yeah, sweet. When we sat down with her, she had admitted that her and her sister had been sexually abused by their grandfather for like 6 years. And her sister had never gotten over it. And she said, people just think she went off the deep end on the drink or whatever and killed her son and killed herself. But what they didn't realize is that she was maybe losing her son. The father was going to get custody. And through all the trauma from being abused, she didn't trust anyone else with her son. So the only way forward was to kill both of them, So, yeah, mate, just hearing people's stories and just delving really deep into that. Robbie's got a knack for getting people to drop their guard. So, mate, yeah, I might be a bit biased, but I love that one too.
Oh, fantastic. And I've written that up in the comments for people to have a look at. The Two Wolves podcast with Robbie Hardy. Is it Higgsy?
That's him.
That's him.
Robbie's one of the Rise presenters. Robbie's my co-pilot in all this.
Love it.
Yeah, he's been unreal. He's been a really, really good thing for us.
Oh, fantastic. We need more and more males especially out there replicating what it looks like to live healthy and well. So
that's it.
Love hearing that. Do you have a mantra that you live by or a favourite quote, Higgsy?
Without people, you're nothing.
Love it.
Joe Strummer.
The human being is wired for love, belonging, connection. So I couldn't agree more. More. Any superpower in the world, what one would you have and why? What would it be and why?
Fly.
Why?
Yep. Why not? Like, mate, I can go anywhere, mate. One of the things that I'm truly like, I've traveled a lot, I should probably have a couple of houses by now because I was in a really good job getting paid lots of money, but I spent a lot of it traveling, and you learn some of the best lessons and see some of the best things. And I going traveling so much with work now. I hate going to airports. So if I could fly, I'd make it a lot easier.
Yeah, I love that. Makes sense. 3 people, anyone in the world, dead or alive, that you could have a dinner with. Who would it be and why?
Frank Sinatra.
Frankie Blue Eyes.
Because he's Frank Sinatra. My dad.
Frank Sinatra is another one with bipolar disorder. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, my dad. And me at 15.
Oh, I love that answer. What would you tell younger Higgsy at 15? What would you tell him if you could tell him something right now?
I'd like to be smart and say you're in for a fucking hell of a ride. But be nicer to mum and dad, put a bit of money away, look after yourself.
Yeah. Love that, and I love that.
Or in the words of the great Hunter S. Thompson, you bought the ticket, so take the ride.
I love that, mate. Love that. 2 to 3 tips. What are your 2-3 tips for isolation right now? I know we've talked about some real good ones in terms of exercise, in terms of grabbing those thoughts and not letting them go, but understanding why they exist. 2 or 3 nice, short, sharp tips for what people could be doing in this time.
Yeah. Allow yourself the off days. If that's a pajamas and lounge and Netflix or the meltdown days, allow it. Okay? Because if you keep it bottled up, it's just going to explode at some stage.
Yep.
Find ways to enjoy it. Find those little nuggets in things. Keep yourself busy in whatever sense. Whether it's reading a book, exercising, cooking, fixing the house, studying, keep yourself busy.
Love it. What's next for Ben Higgs?
Mate, I'm very excited to say, and I'll make the announcement. We've actually just been approved to go not-for-profit.
Great work, mate. Love that.
So that's going to change things up and put a whole new different spin on it. And that's all about that evolution and that growing thing. I've signed back up at uni.
Yeah.
I'm going to use this bit of downtime to, as I said, keep myself busy. If I've got too much time on my hands, it's not a good thing.
I'm the same as you, mate.
Yeah. But mate, we'll just continue to grow. We've been doing some video content and just changing things around because we have to now.
Yeah.
I've been very, very standoffish with this whole digital stuff because I think what we do is so much better when it's face to face.
Of course it is.
But what do you do, man? This is the world we're living in. Mate, and that's us, mate. We'll just bunker down while this is going on, mate. You know, ride it out, see what happens. I can't change what's going on. You know, so we'll just continue to do what we can. And as I said, going not for profit will change things up a bit. Going to school will definitely change things up.
Yeah.
We'll see what opportunities come, mate.
Love it, mate. You're always growing. I mean, I'm big on the two choices that we've always got every morning, and that's empathy and apathy, and remain or evolve. And you do the best of those two every single time. Do you want to tell us where we can find your journey and continue to watch? Going not for profit's going to be bloody exciting. People are going to need to know where you are so they can donate, mate. Where do they find you?
Mate, it's the donations part and all that isn't all set up yet. We're actually just meeting up tomorrow over Zoom. We're getting the whole website redone and everything like that just to change things up. The risefoundation.net's the website. Pardon me, Rise Foundation Ost, I think, on Facebook and Instagram and all that. Still no Twitter. Can't get me on Twitter.
Don't need it, mate.
But nah, yeah, we're there. We'll just keep doing what we do, mate, like yourself, and continue to evolve and just see where this all lays out.
I love that, mate. And normally I finish up by saying something, but I think it'd be better if Ben Higgs, you absolute legend, finishes off by saying some parting advice for everyone that's listening at home right now to get them through the next little bit of difficult stage, mate.
Yeah. I'm a firm believer in the Japanese philosophy of wabi-sabi. So for those that don't know, wabi-sabi started in Japanese art. Say someone was making a pottery bowl, and it broke, they'd fix the break with gold. That break then became the most beautiful, most valuable, strongest part of that bowl. Japanese philosophy turned it on ourselves because we all have breaks, we all have cracks, we all have flaws, things go wrong, situations change, we're all faced with changes, challenges, adversities, all that. But we can fix them, and we can work on them, we can grow from them, and that becomes the gold in us. So we're all in a situation at the moment where our lives have been thrown upside down, everything's changed, and we're under extra stress, all of that. But we can work on it, we can grow from it, we can build from it, and that can become the gold in us. And that's how that change in mindset, once this is all done, we can look at it that way, that, yeah, we went through it, but we've fixed it, we're okay, we're out the other end, and now we're stronger from it.
I love that, mate. And I'm going to finish with some parting words of advice that a great man sitting in front of me has told me many times, and it's the motto and the mantra of Rise Foundation. Reach out, speak up, educate, don't give up, burn brightly, be exceptional, and rise. And I hope that every single person continues to rise and rise together. Use this time to better yourselves. I can't be more grateful for you joining me tonight, Higgsy, and having a chat.
Thank you, brother.
And to thank you to every single person that's tuned in and watches this at a later date. Keep watching, keep tuning in. Just going to let slip on next week. We're joined by Sam Webb from Living over in LA. So we got bootlegs, boot cuts coming on.
Few webs of wisdom.
Yeah, so former Neighbours pretty boy Sam Webb coming on live from LA next week. We've got Heather Yalland, who's a psychologist and my mentor and an absolute wealth of knowledge, coming on. And on Sunday, 19th of April at 9 p.m, a special one-off episode. We've got Kevin Hines live from Atlanta, Georgia. So Higgsy is familiar with Kevo, part of the gang. Yeah, we're looking forward to everything that's ahead for us. And on these episodes, we're only able to do them because you watch. So I'm very grateful for everyone that's tuning in and taking this time to better themselves and to support and learn how to support those people around them as best they can. So I wish you all well. Remain positive, stay upbeat, be kind, and be gentle with yourself in this difficult time. So good night for now, and I'll see you next week. Thanks, Higgsy, and thanks, everyone.
Cheers, brother. Keep it up.